Green Lantern Corps number 15, written by Peter Tomasi, art by Fernando Pasarin. This is the next part of Rise of the Third Army. And last issue, Guy Gardner was kicked out of the Corps. He is officially no longer a Green Lantern member. And when he gets back, he immediately starts punching the walls. And like his knuckles are bleeding. And he's like, I was literally the best Green Lantern for like a little bit there. I had my name written in the Book of Oa. What even just happened? And as he's freaking out over it, he casts off all of his Green Lantern gear. He puts on a motorcycle jacket and helmet. And he just starts driving. And we see he goes down to his dad's house. His brother's there. And he calls up his brother, he calls up his dad. His brother answers and basically says like, hey, how's it going? How's things going? He's like, yeah, no, just here watching the game with dad. What's up with you? And he's like, yeah, space cop stuff. And the brother tells him like, yeah, it was kind of weird how you just picked us all up in the middle of our lives and took us to the Justice League, but also meeting the Justice League was awesome. So no harm, no foul there. And Guy explains like, yeah, I just wanted to make sure you guys were safe. It's fine. And the dad hops onto the phone and it's like, yeah, your brother and your sister, they don't need any special space powers of the Justice League to fight crime. They do it with just a gun and a nightstick. They're so much better than you. And Guy's like, cool, thanks, Dad. You always were the best. And basically, Guy's just like, hey, are you sure everything's fine, though? Is everything fine? His brother's like, yeah, no, we're doing fine. There's nothing crazy going on. So at that point, Guy kicks back on his motorcycle. And a dog starts barking on the phone, and he's like, sure does sound like exactly what's going on outside our house right now. And by that point, Guy's already driven off. And he's made the decision like, you know what? Dad was kind of right, except I don't even need a gun. I don't need a ring. I can fight crime just by being Guy Gardner. And he goes around Baltimore, and he just kind of uses his reputation of being a Green Lantern to scare everyone into submission. He's like, yeah, that's right. I came back to Earth. And he doesn't let him know that he doesn't have his ring anymore. But he's like, don't make me use my ring or else you're going to regret it. So he's easily stopping crime in that way. Until finally he's like, okay, I'm going to do something big. And he goes down to the docks and he's like, there is a homegrown terrorist organization that's looking to get a shipment tonight of missiles. And I'm going to stop them. And he activates a forklift that like drops a car right in the middle of their crew. He goes in, just swoops in like Indiana Jones, starts kicking everybody in the face. And as he's beating everyone up and he's like, that's right, I'm a Green Lantern. Don't make me use my ring. And then he gets a whole bunch of target sites all over him. And it turns out that this whole thing was a like 2-year-long FBI like plans where none of these guys were actually terrorists, but they were trying to get to the arms dealer that was supplying them. And wouldn't you know it, the sister, Gloria, she was helping out as just local police backup. And she sees Guy there. She's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm gathering that I'm screwing something up here. And so they read the rights to Guy for having ruined this entire operation. And his own sister has to put the cuffs on him and lead him into the car. So that's where the issue ends. However, I skipped over like 3 pages. The 3 pages that actually make this a Rise of the Third Army crossover. So we have 1 page of John Stewart still following Mogo. Last issue he ran into Fatality, the Star Sapphire. And basically he's just like, hey, I blew up your whole planet. And she's like, yeah, you did do that. And he's like, I suck. And she's like, all right, can we stop like the pity party? Like I told you to get over it back in the day. Clearly you didn't listen. And he's like, yeah, I'm not good at anything, am I? And then she's like, all right, so what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm following this piece of the planet Mogo, which I also blew up, by the way. And she's like, well, here's the thing. This is like the she part of the planet. There's a he part and a she part of Mogo. And the he part is, I think, trying to, let me see what they say here. One of them is trying to get to the other one. And the other is looking for the rest of their planet's core, which is apparently being held prisoner. And based off of like the trajectory of this piece of it, they're able to like trigonometry figure out the direction they need to go in to get to the pieces that are being held prisoner. So that's where their goal is right now. And then we get the Guardians who are looking over all the Rise of the Third Army stuff, and they're like, wow, I didn't expect this to go this fast. We're doing great. This is a great time for this. And we see Salak, the Green Lantern Corps switchboard, pretty much is watching the whole thing of the Guardians just boasting, like, soon we will have them take over the universe, and once they've taken over enough Green Lanterns, we can bring the assault back to our homeworld, and then they will not be stopped. And one of the Guardians reaches up and just out of thin air, he pulls a little nanite camera, which is how Salak was seeing all this, and he's like, crap, and immediately the Guardians show up in the roof overhead, and they're like, hey, Salak, were you spying on us? And he's like, no. And they're like, we think you were, and you must have heard quite a bit, didn't you? And he's like, no. And he's like, well, who else did you tell what you heard? And he says, no one. I'm the only one who knows. And it's like, well, we don't believe you, Salak, because you lied twice so far. And he's like, well, I would have liked you to believe that you guys were guarding the universe. You're the Guardians, for God's sakes. Why have you, is something mind controlling you? Have you turned evil? And they're like, no, we're still us. This was just the logical step forward. We're getting rid of free will. And Salak's like, free will is what makes life life. You're trying to extinguish all life in the universe. They're like, no, we're protecting it. And he's like, no, you're not. You're not doing that. And they're like, all right, well, agree to disagree, but we are going to imprison you deep inside this basically Guantanamo Bay-esque, like, it's a coffin. They're putting him in a coffin in space pretty much, and they're just sealing it up and just being like, all right, well, we'll deal with you later, bye. And they just leave him. So, yeah, that happens in the middle. I mean, I don't know exactly how Guy's going to get his ring back, but the fact that we're focusing on the Salak part of this seems pretty clear that Guy is going to be coming back. Like, clearly, they're just not going to leave him off the Corps forever. I'm just wondering how soon it's going to happen in the scale of this event, or whether it's going to happen afterwards. The Jon Stewart thing is, of course, its own thing in Deep Space. I do think that this is probably the best opportunity they have to focus on a plot that is just the Corps and not any of the human members, because with Guy being gone and John in Deep Space, they could have like Salak and I guess Kilowog just run their own plot for a while, and I'd be very interested to see that. So we'll see where it goes from there. This issue, though, it's fine. It's a good enough issue. I think the opening pages of Guy freaking out are probably the best in the whole book. I really don't have anything negative to say about those. It's just a nice little character introspective moment. So I'm going to give this one 7.5. I enjoy it. I think it's good, and we'll see how it continues next time.